Love one another and you will be happy. It's as simple and as difficult as that. There is no other way. Welcome everybody, good morning, one and all. Some new faces here today and you're very welcome. I'm very pleased to be standing here today sharing this special time with you. And I'd like to welcome everybody who's here in the church this morning, as well as our friends on Zoom. Morning. And if you're watching on catch up, morning, afternoon, evening, however the time is where you are now. What I'd like to do first of all to start our service is to light our chalice flame, which as our theme this month is love, is in the shape of a heart, which you may not be able to see, but is very beautiful, I assure you. This is our custom. The lit chalice represents our free religious faith. Sorry, guys. Thank you. May this chalice flame illuminate all that is good, all that is beautiful and true. Let it reveal the opportunity behind every trial, the possibility for growth behind each sorrow, and the love that awaits in seed for the awakening, warmth of compassion. Those are words by Unitarian Reverend Andy Pakula. Now that you've been formally welcomed and our chalice has been lit, let us open wide our hearts and lungs in song with our first hymn. It's the Green Book today, 172. All are welcome here. The words will appear on the screen. If you're able to stand, please do. Thank you. Morning, Edgar, Gav and Delphine. Welcome. Hello. The title for today's service is Tough Love. As I mentioned a moment ago, we have an overall theme of love this month. I wanted to spend some time together today to acknowledge how hard loving can be and consider how we can be motivated, regardless of the circumstances, to love whatever or whoever comes our way. I now will share a prayer by the Unitarian Cliff Reed entitled, Help Us to Love. Living Spirit of love, we come before you once again in need of your help. We hear your call, and sometimes we even try to respond, but we don't do very well. You would have us love our neighbor as we love ourselves. You would even have us love our enemies. But so often we have heard those words, admired the sentiment, and then forgotten them. Help us to love, O God, to get beneath the hatred and the prejudice, the ignorance and the self-righteousness, to see another human soul as weak as our own. In this time of worship, help us to hear your call, but more important still, may we hear it and obey it when we return to the world beyond these walls. We ask this for the sake of our neighbours, our enemies, and ourselves. Amen. And now I'd like to invite Jill up. She's going to read today's poem for you. It's called The Cookie Thief by Valerie Cox. All right. Thank you, Jill.
A woman was waiting at an airport one night, with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as a gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when the flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her bag, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair, the others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the ingrate, the rude one, the thief.
Thanks so much, Jill. Oh dear. But an easy mistake to make, maybe? Yes? No? You might not think so. There's no rest, though, for us. I would like us now to stand again and sing, this time of how love can support us through life. It's from the Purple Hymn Book. It's number 10, Be That Guide Whom Love Sustains.
Rise above the
Thank you, that was lovely. I think love is the most powerful and important tool we have at our fingertips. The words I quoted at the beginning of today's service are by Michael Leunig, who is an Australian cartoonist and writer. And I agree with him when he says, there is no other way. We cannot be happy if we are not loving. Even when faced with some of life's most challenging situations or experiences, I believe love is the key to unlock peace and unity. Love is always the answer we seek. Last week, Kate spoke about love and the importance of flow to allow love to spread outwards. And Kate shared the Buddhist practice of loving kindness as a way to keep the channels of love open and flowing. What about when that love is blocked by an encounter with a difficult person? That's what I would like us to consider today. Tough love, the love of another when it is hard to do. The flow of love can be blocked for many reasons, or withheld for many reasons, and we don't have time to unpack all of that right now. In the earlier poem that Jill read, the lady made a genuine mistake in thinking the cookies she was eating were hers, the ones she had purchased, and she understandably felt annoyed, not loving, when she thought the gentleman next to her was helping himself to her cookies without as much as a please or may I. On discovering, however, that it was actually she who had been helping herself to the cookies, she felt remorse. Unfortunately, she couldn't apologize to the gentleman as she was already on her plane, and she couldn't make amends at that point. But hopefully in that circumstance, no long-term damage was done. It was just a few cookies. The reason I chose that poem was to illustrate how becoming a difficult person can happen easily or innocently enough. I am sure we can all acknowledge that at one time or another we have been somebody else's difficult person, whether we knew it or not at the time. If I ask you now to think of a difficult person in your life, I imagine it probably won't be too arduous a task. Perhaps you have a co-worker who's always taking credit for your work, or a friend or parent who is always critiquing you. Maybe it's an inconsiderate neighbor, or maybe it's you yourself who's being difficult lately with yourself or others. When you encounter a difficult person, how do you approach them? Do you approach them? It made me think that in this age of TV shows where we actually vote people off, or in social media where people are always blocking people, we tend to be inclined perhaps not to face them, but to ignore them wherever possible. Perhaps that's something that resonates with you. Maybe you've experienced that yourself. When reflecting on my own actions, I saw that actually I adopt this approach. We have a sheet at work now, since we are hybrid, where you have to book in a desk for work. And I was aware that how I'm very mindful when I'm booking my seat on who else is sat near me. Now, I do actively, therefore, try to avoid colleagues I find difficult. And I ask myself, how do I feel about this? Is this who I want to be? And I automatically started to give myself arguments. Oh, it's so you can concentrate and things like that. Excuses, I suppose, really. This behavior doesn't really fit with what I believe and consider to be important. And I think that maybe some of you may share my view. Let me explain. We are here today joined physically or virtually in a Unitarian church. And I think you may share the belief from the tradition, being founded on one where there's a unity of all things, of all beings, and the universe. And I too have an understanding that there is a sense of oneness between us all, that we are actually interconnected. So therefore, to choose to apply the avoid and approach, ignore approach, I am actually adopting the opposite of my belief, aren't I? I was thinking I'm actually knowingly stopping the channel of energy in that person's direction by avoiding them. And that's not what I want to do. I want my behaviors to reflect my beliefs. I believe this could be an opportunity that I can learn and grow from, but I know it will be hard. It will require work and effort on my part, but I think it's worthwhile because I think it matters. So I will be putting my belief into practice. I'm going to think about where I'm booking my seat. We're having a restructuring in the next couple of weeks, so it's great timing. So I haven't got to go in the office for the next 2 weeks. And when I get back, I will be more mindful, but in a positive way, of where I'm sitting. I know I'm going to feel uncomfortable and I'll probably get frustrated with the people that I find difficult to sit near. But my hope is I will start to see connections between myself and the other people. I will recognize and focus on what joins us. We both want to be happy, healthy, and loved. What I've done is I started this week, Thursday and Friday before I went into the office, and listened to a couple of mindfulness meditations. And they were dedicated to the workplace and colleagues and practicing loving kindness towards them. So I've started and I mean to go on. So ask me in a couple of months how I'm doing and we'll see what the results are. So maybe you ask yourself now, how would you approach somebody in your life who's being difficult? How could you approach them with love? The first thing to do, regardless of the situation, I would suggest is to apply, as Kate mentioned last week, compassion, kindness, and empathy. You could adopt a regular practice of loving kindness, as doing so has been shown to soften your views towards people. I think it would also highlight that connectedness I was talking about. There are plenty of free guided meditation scripts or videos online if you want to try this for yourself, or even if you wanted to look at the meditation Kate gave us last week, it is available on our website, as all of our previous service scripts are. So that's something you may not be aware of. One important thing to think about, though, is if the person is someone you feel you must avoid, whether for your own physical or mental health, then the practice is ideal because you don't actually have to be anywhere near them to do it. Perhaps you see yourself doing this anyway for innocent or minor transgressions, such as cases of the accidental cookie thief or a slight annoyance with another. You don't have to practice it, you already are doing it. It doesn't always come naturally, though, especially if you're not feeling your best. In these cases, loving kindness helps immensely. And I was thinking about how at the moment we probably all are feeling a bit frayed around the edges. You know, there's a lot to be concerned about and worrying about at the moment in our personal lives, whether finances, health, caring responsibilities. We then obviously have the bigger humanitarian crises, the environment. There's lots of things that can obviously be affecting our moods day in, day out at the moment. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that and that we're not alone. We are all together in this. What if you are suffering a major wrong, personally though? Perhaps you have been deeply hurt by someone to the point where their behavior was more than unkind. Perhaps it was actually cruel or abusive, and the after effects stay with you for hours, days, or years. Arguably, this is the toughest of love. Loving someone or people who have caused you or others serious upset and damage. In cases such as this, perhaps the natural desire is to turn away rather than turn the other cheek, as Jesus taught. Thinking of the teachers of Jesus, though, I did think that in those situations, love remains the answer more than ever. And this is tough love. It takes great strength and courage, but without it, the flow of love will reduce. For situations of major hurts or wrongs, we can put love into action by adopting what I believe to be the ultimate expression of love. And that is the grace of forgiveness. That's why I chose as our opening music before we sat down, Amazing Grace, because I do truly believe that that is the main show of love in action. And accounts of love through forgiveness are found in all the major religions and philosophies. The Quran, the Bible, the Dhammapada all promote forgiveness. It's important to be clear, though, that by forgiving, I'm not meaning we condone somebody's actions, but forgiveness is a conscious decision to let go of hurt and anger caused by a person or person who have harmed you. You can forgive someone and still disagree with them and fight for justice if there has been a wrong. It is a gift for the person who has been wronged, as well as the person who carried out harm. You can probably all think of some famous examples of people who have been inspired by their spiritual beliefs to show incredible love through forgiveness. These people show us in the face of great wrong and pain that love is possible. I'll just mention a few people that came to mind straight away when I was writing this. Martin Luther King, who was obviously arrested, abused, and assassinated in 1968, who fought throughout his life the injustice he faced. I'll just have a short quote from him. "We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power of love. There is some good in the worst of us, and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies." Other examples that came to mind was Pope John Paul II. You may remember he was shot twice back in 1981, and he famously forgave his shooter, visited in prison, and actually requested a pardon for his actions. Mahatma Gandhi obviously forgave General Dyer, who was the main perpetrator of the Amritsar massacre. The 14th Dalai Lama continuously forgives the Chinese for their actions committed against the Tibetans. And Nelson Mandela, who forgave his captors after being imprisoned for 27 years. Now, I appreciate absolutely wholeheartedly that obviously the difficulties we face are not likely to be the same in any way to what these people faced. But I would argue that the choice is still the same. We can stop the flow of love or choose to keep the channel open. It isn't easy, not at all. But if we accept that we are all together and that we can all make mistakes, then it is the right course of action. I believe their stories show us that it can be done. They illustrate the power of love in action through forgiveness. And that if they can forgive the atrocities towards them and their people, then surely, as the Lord's Prayer states, we can forgive those who trespass against us. It isn't just people of great political, social, or religious standing who inspire me and keep this in my mind. There are many examples of everyday people putting love in action by forgiving those who have caused them great pain or sorrow. And I tried it. I put inspiring stories of forgiveness into a search engine online, and it came up with thousands of examples. The most recent one that I always remember is that of G. Walker, who you may remember. Her son, Anthony Walker, was 18 years old and was murdered in a racially motivated attack back in 2015. And she was in the newspapers and on the news because she famously drew on her Christian faith and said that she forgave her son's murderers. And actually she runs a charity now based on forgiveness following those actions. So these stories of courageous, tough love in action help me find my way if I find myself slipping into negativity towards those who do harm, not necessarily to me, but to the wider world, to other people. I remind myself of the union between all beings and the power of love and forgiveness as shown by others. By sharing these remarkable examples today, I hope you too may be inspired to do the same. If you're experiencing a situation or feelings that you find triggering or challenging, then I would urge you to get support or speak to someone before engaging in a loving kindness or forgiveness practice. To internalize anger, frustrations, or guilt only cultivates more pain and blocks the flow of love in and out. By reflecting on the examples of others showing forgiveness, we are reminded of our shared humanity, of the unity and connection between us. And by practicing loving kindness and forgiveness towards ourselves and others, we can maintain the flow of love. I would now like to read another short prayer, and then we'll have a period of silence. This prayer is by Reverend Sue Woolley, who is a Unitarian in the UK. Spirit of life and love, here and everywhere. May we be aware of your presence in our lives. May our world be blessed. May our daily needs be met. And may our shortcomings be forgiven, as we forgive those of others. Give us the strength to resist wrongdoing, the inspiration and guidance to do right, and the wisdom to know the difference. We are your hands in the world. Help us to grow. May we have compassion for all living beings and receive whatever life brings with courage and trust. Amen. I would now like to invite you to sing again. This time it's from the Purple Book 110. Now we sing to praise love's blessing.
Creation.
Thank you. That was beautifully sung. I should have warned you it was 6 verses. Our closing words. As we leave this spiritual gathering, we carry with us our connection to each other. As members of this community and as children of the world, may we be mindful of this connection so that our love for each other continues. Until we are all together again, friends, may you go in peace and be surrounded by love.